may I please have your attention? This is the Appalachian Trail Tennessee Podcast. I'm your host, Kenneth Medley. This is our first episode, and I want to thank everybody for joining us. Today we are interviewing the brainchild behind all of this, Miss Kayla Carter. Can you take a minute, just tell us where we are at right now? We're not on the Appalachian Trail now. Beautiful location. Tell me where we're at.
So we are at the Buffalo Mountain City Park in Johnson City, Tennessee. I like to call Johnson City base camp for all of these different outdoor recreation activities that are available here in Northeast Tennessee. This park especially is unique. We've got, hiking trails in here, the potential to have some mountain biking opportunities. The city is really interested in investing in that, and I think it's a great example of steps that the city governments could take throughout our region to invest in the outdoors. I think it's beginner friendly. You can come out here and get that introduction to the outdoors and hiking, and I think a lot of people might start here and then work their way up to hiking the Appalachian Trail eventually.
I'd say it's a little more safe here too. I mean, you have cell phone service, you can call the rescue squad or 911 if something were to happen. It's
Right.
A little more of a safety net hiking here than it would be, say, all the way out for out on the Appalachian Trail for somebody who's never hiked it.
Right, and I think Buffalo Mountain stays very fresh in people's minds because literally any place you go in Johnson City, you can see this mountain. So people see it and they're like, what is that? I want to go there.
Yeah. Take a few minutes, tell us about yourself, your experience with the Appalachian Trail, and how did this podcast come about?
Well, I am the Outdoor Development Manager with the Northeast Tennessee Partnership, and the way I like to describe that responsibility is the word development sandwiched in the middle. We really have those two categories and areas of focus. We have asset development, which is where we go in and we invest in our outdoor recreation assets. Then we have the community development side where we, invest in the people that make those things happen, and, the community, the sense of community that people feel in outdoor rec in our area. And one of the ways that we wanted to showcase the trail and all the ways that it affects the people here that live here and play here is, by having this podcast and sharing their stories. So my experience on the trail, I guess, did definitely inspire and bring this kind of through to fruition. I hesitate to call myself the brainchild, I guess, because a lot of people are involved in making this happen, like you, Kenny, so thank you for all you've done. But we've pulled in all of our different resources and really brought a lot of people into making this happen. And so that's what the trail's about. That's what I learned on the AT in 2014 when I hiked northbound with my boyfriend and now fiance. We really felt that sense of community, and we met so many great people and heard so many great stories. And it's not just the hikers' stories, it's the stories that you learn about people who live in the communities along the way. And so we're proud to be one of those communities here in Northeast Tennessee that actually sees economic benefits from the Appalachian Trail.
Now, you thru-hiked the trail in 2014, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right, what was that like for you?
Wow. So, I was one of those people that maybe had only gone overnight for like 2 or 3 nights before that, and so staying out in the woods, night after night after night was kind of intimidating. But it was a great experience, a good exercise in learning about myself and who I was and what I was capable of. I built a more sturdy relationship with my boyfriend, and I just learned that I could live with a lot less than I thought that I could before that. And it's a big accomplishment. Everybody, I think, would say that's achieved that goal. It's something you really lean back on whenever you think, sometimes you may not, be achieving something currently. You can always kind of lean back and look back and think, well, I did that, so nothing can get in my way now. I can achieve so much more. So it really sets you up for success in your personal life, in your career, professionally. So I think there's a lot of good things. It would take probably more time than we have now to explain all of that in depth, but those are just a few things.
Anybody who hears somebody that walked, nearly 2,000 miles, that's a huge accomplishment for anybody, whether they've achieved it or not. And
Yeah.
I think it says something to a person's work ethic, to start a goal and to finish it. What was the decision that led you up to hiking the AT through hiking?
I think my father really facilitated my love for the trail, and I think he definitely taught me how to appreciate the outdoors, and so he really inspired me. I know that I probably wouldn't have had the bug or the itch or the desire to tackle the AT without his the inspiration that came from my father. And I guess the reason we hiked in 2014, Noah and I decided to go together, and it worked out for him, just that he was graduating college, and then I was able to kind of restructure my life. I was feeling in my job very complacent and like I wasn't being challenged anymore. So I felt like I needed to take a step back from that career. So I was a reporter, I was a journalist, and I was just getting really burnt out. So the trail was an opportunity for me to recharge my batteries and really discover a new way of living life. And then when I came back, I decided that was, I needed to change. I wanted to be a part of the narrative of this community. I didn't want to just continue to write the narrative, which was fun. I love writing. I love sharing people's stories. But I think I was really searching for a way to actually get involved and be a catalyst for change and actually be someone who is driving, change in this region instead of just writing and reporting about it.
It sounds like you went into journalism with maybe idealistic views of journalism. As a journalist, I know that we're told, we're the gatekeepers. You change the world. You have to know everything. And then it's a small process when you become a journalist. It's baby steps. And how did the large step of completing the Appalachian Trail really push you into that more activism journalism rather than just straight reporting?
I think the trail, I realized that the trail, while I was hiking, it ran right through my backyard where I've always grown up. And it was like, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, wow, I never took quite the time to get to know it and discover the trail. And it was so close. I had done like little hikes here and there, but I don't know. So I think after hiking and realizing that asset exists here in my region, that really, inspired me to, how can we leverage this asset? How can we, make people more aware that it's here, and how do we inspire them to get out there and actually have experiences and connect with it? Because that's going to be what drives the next generation of stewards, is the younger generations and people making a connection with the trail and then wanting to give back to it.
Had you hiked at all on the trail with it being in your backyard before through hiking?
I'd done all of the spots that everybody talks about and gets really excited about, the Roan Highlands and Unaka and, around Watauga Lake and those kind of pinnacle points along the trail that a lot of people really swoon over. But never.
That was your backyard.
It is, but never like, a continuous hike of it. A lot of people do that section all together in one swoop. And, just to touch on what I had said earlier, it's, great accomplishment to through hike the trail in one fell swoop, but I think there's a lot to learn also by taking it in pieces and section hiking and even just day hiking and getting out there.
Do you think that people in this region take for granted the outdoor recreation that we have and the Appalachian Trail being in our backyard, and they don't fully understand maybe the impact of the economic development of it?
I think so. I think that, there are probably examples out there of where people are not aware that it's there. I mean, I was one of those people at one point. I mean, we all have to start somewhere, and, we have to make invitations and invite people to come out and be a part of that community. But yeah, I do think some people aren't aware that maybe the person that's eating in their restaurant that they own is a hiker, or, somebody's staying overnight in their hotel that is a hiker. But I think the people who are closest and the businesses that are focusing on that, they're very aware, and they're hyper aware of it, and they're catering to the hikers' needs. And I think through this podcast, you'll hear those stories, and you'll better understand the way people are leveraging this asset in our region.
So what was the decision process leading up to focusing first on the Appalachian Trail as our major outdoor development?
I think there's a lot of infrastructure and support around the trail. The Appalachian Trail Conservancy is dedicated to making sure that happens. It's been designated as a national park through the National Park Service. So there's a lot of support and infrastructure there for the trail. I feel comfortable with us promoting this asset because of the support system that's already in place. And I'm not sure that we could say that about some of the other outdoor recreation opportunities that are out there. So we felt like if we're going to market anything, the Appalachian Trail is going to be, something that we feel comfortable doing right now.
And tell me a little bit about the younger generation involvement in stewardship. How the trail's been around for generations now, and it's stewardship and people continuing to use it that's going to keep it around. Is that bringing that stewardship to a younger generation part of the motivation of the podcast?
Yes, because, who listens to podcasts? Who's our audience? We definitely anticipate this inspiring some people to give back or create businesses. We want to invite people to come here, live here, build a business here, base it off the trail. We think that's a very viable economic opportunity for young people that, might be inspired to have an outdoor rec business. Kenny, you're an example of that even. So I think, yes, we love inspiring that younger generation of people to come be a part of, the economy here. And that's what we're trying to do with the podcast.
I want to touch on this. Tell me something about the community of Northeast Tennessee that is great that doesn't take part to the trail. Besides the trail, what makes Northeast Tennessee community?
Man, that's a tough question. There's so many. It's so diverse. There are people here that love paddling, and people that love off-road, people who love hunting, people who love just fitness and yoga, and it's so diverse here in opportunities that no matter who you are and what interest you may have, you're going to find a group of people that are like-minded and people that you can share an outdoor experience with. And I think that's what makes this place special, and just one of the many reasons. Another one, I guess, would be an environmental perspective in terms of we have rare plants and rare animals that live here and grow here. And, if you enjoy going out and discovering those kind of things, you'll never get bored.
Now let's tie that back into the trail, because the trail is known for some very rare flora and fauna and wildlife through this region. We were talking about some of the dendrons earlier. Do you think that the sustainability and the long-term conservancy of our natural assets are going to be the jobs for the next generation?
Oh, most definitely. I think the more we invest in and cherish and give back to our natural capital, which is what we like to call it, our natural capital, then we're going to see the benefits of that for years to come. I think it's just the sign of the times. Technology is just, so prevalent and just almost takes over every aspect of our lives now. And I think nature and the outdoors and being outside is a way to recoup from, the incessant text messages and just being on all the time, being accessible to everyone. The outdoors is pretty much the only place left where we can actually go out and shed all of that and, just get all of that out of our lives for just a moment and really reflect on our day and think about, how we're going to grow as an individual, and how we want to contribute to the community.
And that technology is even creeping into those outdoor spaces a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely is. But, I think there's a silver lining there. We can leverage the technology like we are here with the podcast. We can share the outdoors through those different engines for communicating with people. So we can do it in a good, responsible way.
I like that. What is your hope or goal for responsible sustainability for the future of this region?
One way we're attempting to do that is we're piling an AmeriCorps position, an environmental stewardship coordinator. We want to hire them on to engage with all of our stewardship groups. We've got, the Southern Off-Road Biking Association. We've got Tennessee Eastman Hiking Club, and they're actually the people who maintain the trail, the section of trail we have in Northeast Tennessee. We have, Trout Unlimited. We have, Bear Hunter Association, Rough Grouse Society. We have the OHV community, the Mountain Trail Riders. So we see that individual engaging with all of those different user groups and bringing them to the table and making them feel like their voices are heard. And then also promoting their cleanup days, their work days, giving them the resources they need to be successful in their stewardship efforts. And that's just one way.
All right, we're going to get into a few more little personal questions about
okay.
the trail. Do you have a trail name?
I do.
You do? What is it?
My trail name is Blossom.
Why?
Well, it kind of goes hand in hand with my boyfriend's trail name, Botany. So he loves the flowers, and he taught me all of the different flower names. Maybe not all of them, but a lot of them. And I really enjoyed, that time learning with him. And so just eventually became Blossom because we couldn't pick a particular flower. I liked all of them.
Good,
so.
I like that. Can you share with me a memorable moment or one of your most memorable moments from the trail?
Yes, and it actually took place here in Northeast Tennessee, and it involves bears. So I know people love bears, so I like to tell the story a lot. But we were hiking in the section near the Watauga Lake, which is a lake here in Northeast Tennessee, and it's a very active bear area. And prior to this, I was not aware of that. So we had decided to camp in that area, unbeknownst to us, that there were very active bears. So we were I was in my hammock. Noah and I actually had this setup. We called it the backcountry bunk beds. So I was in the hammock above him, and he was in the bivvy below me, and we had one tarp over us. Okay. So we hear some rustling in the woods, and I hear somebody else, a part of our little trail family that we were in at the time, say, "Guys, the bears are here." And so we all scramble out of our individual tents and hammocks, and we look, and there's a mama bear and her 3 cubs scaling this tree, trying to get our food out of the tree because, you have to hang your food in the trees and hang a bear bag. Well,
and what is a human in a hammock?
Yeah, we call them bear burritos, actually.
Meat sack.
Bear burrito, but they were definitely more interested in the food than us.
Okay, that's good.
We stood there making noise, trying to make ourselves big, getting in a group, trying to scare them off. But this mama bear was determined to get this food down. And the most bizarre part of it was, we saw her break a branch off of the tree, put it in her mouth, and then jab this bag of food until she could, rip it open.
Yeah, so she was using a tree limb as a tool.
Yes, and we were just, at one point we stopped trying to skare her off, and we were just watching, kind of mesmerized, wow. And we were like, man, I just don't think she's interested in us. So, we're gonna be, we're gonna watch and, try to defend ourselves if we need to. But she didn't care. I mean, I think what had happened was she eventually gave up. So we stood and watched this bear for quite a while. And what happened was she was not successful. So in her attempt. And, these baby bears were getting in her way. They were trying to help her, but she was hissing at them and swatting them out of the tree, get away. Eventually they came back down the tree and waddled off. So we were like, what do we do? Do we just go back to sleep, or do we move camp? So this was midnight, and we decided to break camp down, get our food out of the tree, move on. So we hiked 2 more miles up the trail and reestablish camp. And we hang our food again. well, we go to sleep, everything's fine. Wake up in the morning, we're like, we're going to make some breakfast. And we go over to where we had hung our bags the second time, and they were gone. So
she was successful the second time.
She followed us, waited for us to actually be asleep this time, and then enacted her plan, and she was eventually successful. So it was good that we were actually home in our backyard, because we just called our parents and said, hey, can you bring us some more food? Because a bear just ate all of our food. But yeah, it was a pretty wild experience to have so close to home.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, growing up in the region, did you ever experience anything like that?
No. I've never been that close to a bear before that.
Why a podcast? Why not videos on YouTube? Why not live videos on Facebook? Why did NetRep decide, Northeast Tennessee Regional Economic Partnership, decide to do podcast?
I think podcasts are a way for people to feel like they are sitting in on a conversation. I think they're pretty popular among the demographic we're trying to target as well, but I think they also transcend other audiences. So we felt like it was a good way for people to learn about our area that otherwise might not know about Northeast Tennessee and the Appalachian Trail. We definitely think it's more accessible content to consume for people. It's a little more convenient for people. They can download them and listen to them whenever they have time on their commutes to work. They are definitely more convenient of a way to listen and consume content. So
what's next for the Attention podcast? What do we have? Give me a quick outline of what it's going to look like.
Okay, well, launch week, which is where we are right now, we hope to kind of set the scene for people and really set up what is thru hiking. What does this mean for people who aren't sure what that is? There are a lot of jargony words that we use. Well, as a thru hiker, I guess I would have a little bit more knowledge about certain terms that people just throw around, naturally.
Give me an example.
I guess, the most common would be when you call people NOBO or a SOBO. So a NOBO is like northbounder on the trail, southbounder is SOBO. And there's different things like 0 days and
Tramley, flip-floppers, and all this other stuff.
So I'm excited to kind of do a video and podcast episode on trail terminology. Okay. Then we'll go into what makes up a hiker's pack and, what all gear you need to survive out in the woods and do that, back to back, end on end, day after day. And then maybe talk a little bit about some of the more gross side of things, like, a lot of people, a lot of people are curious about how that works in the woods. So we'll launch into that. And then,
did you carry a shovel?
Yes, a trowel.
You carried a shovel?
Yes, a necessity.
I'll explain what that shovel's for on our Gross Out episode. There's
I love it.
Special requirements for using the bathroom in the woods.
All part of Leave No Trace, which we advocate for. Everybody utilizing the Leave No Trace principles.
Nothing but a footprint.
Yes. And then, we'll launch into from there, just talking with all of the people in our region that contribute to the economics of the trail. So, we'll talk to business owners that, they love it when the hikers come into town because they're fueling their business. And then we've got the bed and breakfast owners and, of course, the stories everybody wants to hear, people who are actually doing it right now, the thru hikers that are out there attempting this feat. So
yes.
We're excited.
It's literally a feat.
A lot of feet.
What's next for Kayla Carter, NetRep, and the Attention podcast?
I think this podcast will set us up for success in the future and inspire more people to not only hike the trail, but invest in the trail, their time as stewards, but also their financial investments. Maybe somebody will have a business idea that's spurred out of a conversation we have through the podcast, and they'll want to set up that business here in Northeast Tennessee. So that's where we see things going. We see more investment in outdoor rec as a whole and businesses that spin off of that. And once we create that sense of community here, we hope to be able to recruit more industry type jobs for people. The outdoors is a very viable economic strategy for our region, and I think it's wise of us to invest in it and encourage people to be more active and get out there and take care of their bodies and take care of their economy at the same time.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving us the who, what, when, where, and how. Give me a real quick, what's launch week look like? We got this is going to be our first video / podcast,
Right.
and then we're going to have one a day for the first 5 days, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So it'll be daily for launch week, and then we'll do one a week through, I think we have enough content through November, so that's exciting.
Yes.
So every week, just be on
And
the
where
lookout.
can our listeners find this at?
We'll definitely have some available on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Play.
All right, well, that's all I have. To our audience, if you all have enjoyed this content, make sure to like, subscribe, share, pass it around. Help us get the word out there to help you and our children in the future. We need this. We need this trail here. Thank you, and thank you for joining us. This podcast has been a presentation of the Northeast Tennessee Regional Economic Partnership with special thanks to East Tennessee State University, Yeehaw Brewing Company, and Irwin Fiber provided by Irwin Utilities. Produced by 3MAP.